On today's show, the San Diego Padres have lost 9 of their last 13 games, and Xander Bogaerts may have the worst contract that I have ever seen in baseball.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Wednesday, June 18th. As always, I am your host with sometimes the most, Javier Reyes, and I've been covering the team for almost 6 years now for not just this podcast, but also various outlets, including JustBaseball.com, chief among them. And today's episode, guys, is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And today's show, guys, let me also tell you, if you want your questions or responses read, guess what? You can reach out to me on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. Today we are recapping the game between the Padres and the Dodgers. Another loss for the Padres, as mentioned in the cold open of this show. And then we're going to be talking about Xander Bogaerts. Firstly, whether or not he really is that bad, and how that isn't hyperbole. This might be one of the worst contracts I've ever seen in any team across the entire sport. And then how he could potentially be fixed. Right? So a little bit of negative and positive for you today, guys. Let's start with the game recap, though. Yesterday's game, the Padres lose by a final score of 8-6. And look, believe it or not, despite my warnings, right? My warnings were not heeded. It was not Randy Vasquez that was the reason that the Padres lost this game. He actually does his job. Let's say that. I don't want to say that he was great, but he does his job. 5 innings in this one, 3 earned runs on 4 hits and 2 Ks. He does give up the Andy Pages homer and the sacrifice fly from Max Muncy. And then he has the Andy Pages homer again in the bottom of the 4th inning. Andy Pages just killing us in this series. Just really, really rough, right? I assume he is taking the Dylan Cease accidental throwing, right? Like taking it personally. And that's what he's been doing, right? He's been absolutely killing this team, throwing runners out. He threw out Gavin Sheets last week. Like it's just really rough, right? But Randy Vasquez is not the reason they lost this game. The reason they lost this game is because Jeremiah Estrada absolutely implodes in this game, not getting a single out, giving up 5 runs on 5 hits, including a big home run from Will Smith to make it 5-3 after the Padres had battled their way back a little bit. Andy Pages drives in another run, and then Tommy Edman rips a double. Jeremiah Estrada now sitting with a 3.38 ERA on the season. It went up quite a bit, right? Jeremiah Estrada has been a little bit, how do I put this? He's been kind of wonky lately. He's got a 3.94 ERA now after having a 2.53 heading into last night. And he's had a couple bad moments, right? Like he had the bad moment last week against the Dodgers, and you really don't like to see that from your high leverage guys against potential playoff teams you may be facing, assuming this team makes the playoffs at this point. And then he had that bad moment against Milwaukee. I know that there was some errors involved, but even still, in fairness, right? In fairness to Estrada, right? Martin Maldonado, as AJ Casaval actually tweeted and kind of summarized the thing very well on Twitter, that Martin Maldonado dropped what could have been kind of the go-away pitch, let's call it, right? He drops the ball. Will Smith worked Jeremiah Estrada for all 12 pitches. Pitch number 11 might have been on the inside corner at the knees, but Martin Maldonado couldn't control it, and it went for a pass ball and a ball. Pitch number 12 is a 2-run homer from Smith, and the Dodgers lead 5-3, and obviously the rest happens as I just detailed. I once again must reiterate that it does not make literally any sense that Martin Maldonado plays as much as he does. He has not been good in 4 years, and he is a negative player, and he's old, right? It doesn't make any sense. They're treating this guy like he's Buster Posey, right? Like, I just don't understand it. But at the same time, I must reiterate that Luis Campusano, every single time they give him a chance, is terrible. And I have to assume that they know something, right? Like, so I don't really know what to do. I would still just give Campusano the chance. I really do. I would just be like, screw it. Like, let's just try. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? But this team is really set on not changing a lot of their ways, it seems, which is really frustrating about not just Mike Schultz, but the team. And don't get me wrong, I get it. It's a patient sport, so I don't want to hate too much, right? Because it's possible that everything turns around and you're like, this is why you don't just pivot in baseball. You just can't. You pivot in football, maybe you pivot in basketball, but sometimes you just have to stay and trust your players and trust what you think you have. But still, so not all on Estrada, but even still, really rough moment for him. But that's not all, folks. One last positive thing. One last positive thing before we rip into it. Trenton Brooks getting called up in his third at bat, hits a home run to make the score 5-8, and then the Padres end up scoring on a balk by Michael Kopech from Fernando Tatis Jr., allowing him to score from third. But Xander Bogaerts, let's do it. Let's do it. Actually, no. Wait, we gotta save him. Real quick, there was some tempers that flared in this game again. Right? Like, that's kind of been the thing with this team. Talked about this on Monday, that I do think it's hilarious whenever the players and fans of especially the Dodgers, when it comes to fans, try to, like, downplay it. And I'm like, there's clearly some hatred and some vibes here, right? So, first, Fernando Tatis Jr. gets hit. Then, Shohei Ohtani gets hit. Roberts gets ejected. I don't know why he's flipping out. That's absolutely absurd that he's flipping out. I assume because a warning was issued, right? And my vibe on this is, well, our guy got hit, so you freaking out about a warning doesn't make sense, right? Like, you actually started this. You get how that works, Dave? I don't know if you understand if that's how it works. And here's the thing. I know he understands. I'm really talking to people who like to take everything at his word and then splurge it around and then turn the Padres into super criminals, right? But Jose Iglesias then gets hurt later on in the game. Nothing happens, of course, because it wasn't a Dodger, as you guys know. If it was a Dodgers player, you are sent to the gulag like you do in Modern Warfare Warzone, right, where you have to kill someone else in order to make it. That's what gets happen if you hit a Dodger. But if it's a Padre, who cares, right? So that was really annoying, and I just want to illustrate that the Dodgers and their fan base and their team are really annoying. But anyway, the big thing, though, forget the Dodgers for a second, because this isn't the Dodgers' fault. Xander Bogaerts, 7 men left on base. The most by any other Padres player was 3 between Luis Arraez and Gavin Sheets. 7 guys left on base. After that Tatis balk, he hit a dribbler, doesn't allow anyone else to score, and he grinds into 2 double plays in this game. One with the bases loaded, and one with, I believe it was first and second. Whew. Guys, I don't know what to say almost at this point. I mean, I do know what to say. I do have some ideas that I'm going to talk about in the next segment, but this is truly, and it is not hyperbole, one of the worst contracts, not just in the sport right now, but that I've ever seen. Because you aren't even asking for much from Xander. I think that's a key here. When you think about some of the worst contracts in baseball, I think you were asking for a lot, and that's why it was a disappointment. Or it was that they got really hurt, in the case of, say, Anthony Rendon. I don't know what to say, guys. I don't know what to say. Other than a few things for one of our sponsors. How about that transition, everybody? Did you like that one? I liked it. Monarch Money is what we're going to be talking about first today before we get into the next segment, guys. If you ever check your account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, though. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. And also, what I like about it is they give you some nice insights to help you save and budget better, right? Let you know exactly how much money you're spending on food delivery, like myself. Also, like, just the convenience of it all, right? Multiple apps. You don't have to juggle like a ton of different apps to use. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track, share, and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Go on and check it out. And just like that, everybody, we are back here on the Locked On Padres podcast, thriving and vibing, despite it all, in spite of it all. Javier Reyes here. You can follow me on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. We're going to keep talking about Bogaerts now. Because this is a topic, usually what I've been doing lately, ever since we've been overhauling the show for my longtime listeners, is I like to kind of like differentiate, have really different segments of every podcast. I don't want to just hone in on one player all the time, especially when we're in the middle of the season, right? It's easier to do that in the off season, doing player reviews and stuff, but not necessarily now. But with Xander Bogaerts, he deserves it. And I don't mean that as a compliment. Xander Bogaerts has been one of the worst contracts I have quite simply ever seen. I mean, this guy right now couldn't hit water out of a boat. Like, it's just what I think is maddening about Bogaerts is that he was never a player in theory that should age poorly, just based on fundamentals and how I've been watching baseball, right? This has never been a guy outside that weird year when the balls were clearly juiced that hits like a ton of home runs. He was a 20 home run guy at most, right? He would hit for a good average, and he started getting a little bit better at defense. He'd be really clutch. He'd have some intangible factors, right? Like, he would just be a high batting average guy who'd never swung at anything stupid. I think that was always his best attribute. And sure, he peaked at one point. I feel like the 2018 season, right? 2018 through 2021 was a little bit of a peak for him. But even still, we thought, or at least I thought, well, you know what? Yeah, this is not going to be a player that ages super well eventually, but he'll at least be a guy that you know can just hit 270, get a 340 on base, maybe hit you 15 home runs. Like, that was kind of it felt like the floor was lower, unlike some other players in baseball, like, say, Giancarlo Stanton, right? If you want to use a basketball one, someone like Ja Morant. People that rely a little bit more on freakish athleticism and skills that just tend to not age as great, right? Aaron Judge being another. Turns out Aaron Judge is just a demigod, right? But overall, that's kind of what my vibe was with the contract. But then, of course, you found out there was a wrist issue, right? And that issue is maybe part of the problem of Xander right now. Like, that might be what's happening, is this long-term debilitating wrist injury. But I never expected him to be as bad as he is. Currently on the season, he's slashing 227 with a 304 on base and a 311 slugging, 76 WRC plus. Right? We knew left field and catcher were going to be a problem with this team, but overall, for the diagnosis of this Padres team, it has been really bad numbers with runners in scoring position. They have, instead of just regressed slightly, they have regressed fully from last year, just completely fully. They're not the worst in baseball, but they have completely regressed with driving in runs. And it's Luis Arraez and Xander Bogaerts. That's the story of this team. I know left field and catcher are bad, but we knew that was going to be a problem. It's the complete anemic performances by Luis Arraez and Xander Bogaerts. We already talked about Arraez yesterday. I really think that they should move him down to third of the order. I don't think they will, because they refuse to do anything with this team sometimes. But we got to talk about Xander. The seventh worst slug among all active players right now. That 311 slugging. Xavier Edwards of the Marlins, if you know who that is, he has a better slugging than Xander Bogaerts. Just so you know, he is literally only a singles guy. He's kind of like their Arraez, basically, except better right now than our Arraez. He also has the 14th lowest WRC plus of any active player. It's just astounding. It's astounding. It's astounding. Look, I mean, this is just one of those segments where I'm just going to be gobsmacked the whole time. Because when I watch Xander Bogaerts, I see a player who looks completely, I don't want to say lost, but completely washed, right? This is a player who, when he swings, he looks tired. When he swings, it looks like he stresses himself. It looks awful every time. And leaving 7 guys on base. Look, here's the thing. Luis Arraez hasn't been good, right? Like, overall as a baseball player. The fact that he has more RBIs than Xander Bogaerts is actually insane. Actually insane. Jake Cronenworth, I believe, has more RBIs than Xander Bogaerts. Or does he? No. He has 17. He has 17. My bad. How many does Xander Bogaerts have? Like 26? Let me just check that real quick. He has 26. When I watch this team, every single time, it is becoming a running joke whenever my mom happens to be watching the game. A running joke that's like, all right, go to the bathroom. Xander's up. It is astounding that he cannot do anything. And I understand that he doesn't have the lowest WAR in the league because of the defense. And I do think that he's played a pretty good glove. But I don't think the glove has been Lindor level. I don't think it's been Andrelton Simmons. I don't think it's been Matt Chapman or Willie Adames. Well, Willie Adames is bad this year for some reason, but you get my point, right? And to me, he's just playing a good, solid shortstop. But I haven't seen him make, like, crazy plays this year. In fact, there's been multiple times when I've seen him about to make a crazy play, he fumbles the ball or it bounces off his glove, whatever. So instead, he just does solid stuff. I think he has good range, but the lack of arm strength hurts him for sure. But I get it. But then you look at someone like Ha-Seong Kim. That guy was a super plus defender. And even at his worst, I mean, we are looking at a player, guys, Xander Bogaerts, Ha-Seong Kim, do you remember his rookie year? Ha-Seong Kim, do you remember his rookie year, how bad he was that year? He had a 71 WRC plus that year. Xander Bogaerts has a 76. Just to give you an idea that the dude from the KBO, who never was supposed to hit, by the way, or not never supposed to hit, who was never like, the offense was something we realized really quickly was like not going to be a strong suit. It was just going to be, hopefully he can be an average bat. Xander Bogaerts is supposed to be a hitter. And he's almost as bad as Ha-Seong Kim was in his rookie year when Ha-Seong Kim was not getting consistent playing time whatsoever, and he was adjusting to everything, and, you know, poor mucho stress. Remember that cigarette story with the Eric Hosmer podcast? All that stuff. It is not hyperbole to say that this could very well be the contract that kills the San Diego Padres. I am being dead serious. I'm being dead freaking serious. On top of all the extenuating circumstances, right? In the sense of, we could have just kept Jackson Merrill at shortstop, right? You just have him. We could have just kept Ha-Seong Kim. We could have just kept CJ Abrams and James Wood. There's a world in which this team is Jackson Merrill center field, Fernando Tatis Jr. right field, James Wood left field, CJ Abrams, Manny Machado, Jake Cronenworth, and I guess Luis Ariz, whatever. But, like, you could find a different first baseman if you had to. Yeah, that is a real reality that we live in. And heck, Trent Grisham also, by the way, killing it for the Yankees. But granted, he also was bad for them last year, and we actually gave Grisham a chance. But whatever. I think it could actually kill them because they are being handcuffed by this every year. They don't know what to do with him. You can't just put him on the bench with him making all that much money. They're not going to. And what I see is a player that I just never thought he'd get this bad. I mean, Albert Pujols back in the day. He's one of those guys I'll never forget having a bad contract. He at least hit, though. He at least did stuff. It was just that they really did overpay him. Xander Bogaerts, I'm watching a player that he looked like he was okay the first year. He at least still had the hitting ability. 280 batting average, 340 on base. He can't do anything. 7 batters left on base. 2 double plays. A weak grounder after Tatis just got the balk. And right when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's it. You know that he's not getting a hit. Beat the streak. If you were allowed to bet on players not getting the hit, you probably would break the 56 record. That's how bad it's been. But folks, I don't want to do all negativity on this podcast. Not all negativity. I want to talk about some solutions and my opinion on, I think, a lot of Padre fans' belief and a lot of Padre fans and baseball fans' thing is that they need to do anything to get out of this contract. I will give you my take on that in just a second, guys. But first, a word from one of our sponsors. And that sponsor is a lovely one, ladies and gentlemen, because you know what? Every day, it's more than just coffee. It's a ritual. It's a lifeline. It's the thing that gets you from half asleep to fully functioning. And if that's essential, right? You need something essential. You need something that is going to give you the best of the best. And that's where Trade Coffee comes in. Trade Coffee is the #1 destination for coffee in the U.S., delivering fresh, incredible coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Whether you're a cold brew fan or a pour-over purist, they've got a roast you'll love. And also, they've got all these little, quizzes that you can take. Taste, smell, what kind you've had, whatever. They can do all that stuff. You know what I mean? I took the quiz, and the first bag they sent me, it was spot on. They knew. These people know. They're like they got the Netflix algorithm, but for coffee, they know what you want. So go check that out, guys. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our customers, Locked On Padres fans, 15% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/LockedOnMLB. That's trade.com, trade.com/LockedOnMLB for 50% off your 1-month trial. Remember, drinktrade.com/LockedOnMLB. Go on and check that out. And just like that, everybody, we are thriving and vibing into the final segment of this Locked On Hate Xander Bogaerts podcast. Remember, everybody, go follow me on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. Okay, let's get into it. Yesterday, I talked about Luis Ariz and how someone from the Discord on Just Baseball, great Discord, I recommend everyone signing up if you want to be with fellow baseball nerds for gambling, fantasy, everything, and collectibles, card chat, whatever it is, you can talk. And someone messaged me giving their suggestions, and they brought up the Luis Ariz thing. Everyone go check out yesterday the case for moving Luis Ariz down in the order. It was really cool, really good stats and stuff like that as well. He also had a suggestion for Xander Bogaerts. Shout out my guy, Jay Scott. He said, Bogarts' swing decisions are on par with his career norms while posting his best EVs and sweet spot percentage of his 2020s. The outline for a good season is there, but he's just failing to do any significant damage. His 321 xWOBA points to some potential bad luck, but I think it's more than that. His barrel percentage is a career low and has been dropping every year since 2021. Torpedo bats were all anyone could talk about to start the year, but it hasn't been mentioned since. In this case, I think it could be what unlocks the best version of Xander. Oh, interesting. Interesting, he says. Could be the best that what unlocks him. All right. Let's talk about it. He gives a comparison. Also, my man Jay Scott. In 2024, Anthony Volpe posted a barrel percentage of just 3.9%, which is close to Xander's 3.6% from this campaign. But after making the switch this season, it's up near 10%, Volpe that is, and his OPS is up 100 points. While I don't think it's fair to totally attribute this jump to the bat, other players who have used the bat, like Cody Bellinger and Dansby Swanson, have also seen a jump in barrel and hard hit percentage. I think it's an interesting idea, right? Here's what I think. I think at this point, I am fully up for literally anything with Xander Bogaerts. I don't care if you bench him. I don't care if you hit him 9th. I think he should be hitting 7th. That's what I think. I think he should be the 7th guy on base. Because then at least, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. I just think that that's a better, I literally would rather have Jake Cronenworth up. I know Jake Cronenworth has some problems. I know that some of his expected stats are worse than his current stats. But I do like that he can at least draw walks, 15.1% walk rate. That's going to go down at some point. He's looked a little bit shaky at times this year, but I just trust that he can get a hit. He can do something. Bogaerts is just a disaster. So to me, I just want to change things. Change things around, please, right? With Arise and Bogaerts, but especially Bogaerts. And I will say that the Volpe comparison isn't the same because Volpe is not as much of a bat-to-ball guy the way that Xander is. For example, Xander Bogaerts has a zone contact rate. By the way, he has a zone contact rate of 96%. Right? This is a player that is making contact and not swinging at bad pitches, which is the case to be made for why he could get better. I know it sounds like you guys are like, stop with your stats. Shut up. He's a bust. Just send him to another league, send him to Japan, whatever it is, right? The Adam Silver get ready to learn Chinese buddy meme, right? I know, I understand. But he is not hitting anything above 94 miles per hour. He can't keep up to high velocity. He looks like he swings through pitches, and when he does swing, it always comes off weak, but he's always making contact. And I talked with my friend Aram Layton about this, and he's like, it could mean that there needs to be an overhaul. If it's swing mechanics, maybe an easier path to ball, maybe a two-handed swing is needed. Maybe a torpedo bat. I just will say Xander Bogaerts is more of a bat-to-ball guy, while Volpe is a little bit more of a defensive wizard with power upside, 250, 260 hitter. While Xander Bogaerts, in theory, is like a 280, 290, 300 hitter, right? But even still, I like the idea. I like the idea of changing something. Unfortunately, this is the type of overhaul that won't happen probably this year, so we just have to suck it up. And it's because of that, which is why the idea of the Padres buying aggressively at the deadline is looking more and more ill-rot. Right now, I think that they might still buy if King and Darvish come back healthy. I think that they could do that. But if they're not healthy and you've got an albatross at Xander Bogaerts and you've got the Arise thing where Arise is somehow worse than he was last year with the thumb injury, don't know how it happened, but he's found a way. I just think that this might not be the season to go all in. And that sucks, but it's true. I think that with Xander Bogaerts, the other question, though, is a lot of people are going to be talking about this. Do we have to trade him away? Trade him away, give up whatever it takes to make a team eat this contract, pay for some of it if you have to? I'm not with it. You know why? Because of what I just mentioned. There's at least a world in which you can turn Xander Bogaerts into a 115 WRC plus player. I do believe that. I do. I still do. I just think that his plate discipline is really great. He's not swinging at bad pitches. And in fairness, he doesn't strike out a lot, right? Like, he's not striking out a ton. That's cool. It's just that he can't do anything with his contact. 17.5% strikeout rate. That's in line with his career norms. So to me, I am more of the belief of it is better to try salvaging this than it is to, like, are you really going to feel good trading Ethan Salas and Leody DeVries? Maybe one of those two. And trading a couple other prospects and then eating, let's say, $15 million of that contract for him to play. So you're still paying $15 million a year for another 9 years? Are you really going to feel good about that? I don't. And this is the same dialogue that we had with Eric Hosmer. Giving up prospects to get rid of a bad contract, especially when you don't have a lot of prospects, just to me is the ultimate sign of defeat. And it's just, I just don't believe that. I don't believe it. I think that some tinkering in the offseason is something you can hope for. I know it's bad, guys, but do you really want to just be like, screw it, the other 9 years? He's not going to be worth the money. That part, I think, is final. But if you can get him back to what he was that first year with the Padres, where really he just couldn't hit with runners on, but he was still doing a decent amount with his bat, right? Like the hard hit rate did go down, I understand that, but at least he can be a hitter. At least he can be a guy in this lineup that just hits, right? Like he does things with the ball. I would just rather go that direction. I would. I really would. And I know that sounds crazy. I get it. Because also his 2023 marks were also really scary too. But to me, I just think that he needs some tweaks, right? At least he has a higher expected batting average of 264. At least he can still play a little bit of defense, even though I think that gets a little bit, inflates his WAR numbers, for example, a little bit. I just think the idea of trading these guys makes no sense. If we're trading those guys, we're trading them for Jarren Duran. You know what I mean? I don't want to trade them at all at this point. I really just want to keep Ethan Salas. I think he could be really special, and at least at the very minimum, a good catcher that you have control over. A guy who could get 1.5 wins at worst just from his defense alone. That's the vibe that I'm getting. I want that. I really, really do, and I don't care about the prospect rankings with him. I don't. You know why? Because he was being rushed up way too quickly in the first place, and too many people were judging him based off peripherals. Give him some time. And I understand this team doesn't have time. But I've also heard about how the team doesn't have time since 2020. This win now thing. I don't know. I'm just kind of like, is it? Because you keep claiming it's win now every year. I don't know if it's as win now as they have been telling us for a few years. Or at least the vibe of this team has been for a few years. But anyway, I'm getting off track. It's a mess. Guys, it's a mess. I fully believe we are looking at the worst deal in Padres history. I think it is worse than the Eric Hosmer contract because you have it for infinitely longer period of time. And also because it's like you just look at CJ Abrams, you look at the other world in which we just have that guy playing, and you're just like, this is awful. This is awful. And with the financial constraints, unlike say a Phillies, a Yankees, a Dodgers, when you miss on a contract like that, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, and it's going to take away from other things that you could do. But folks, those are my thoughts. And with that all being said, that about does it for today's edition of the Locked On Padres podcast. Remember to go subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast from. Follow me on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Javapeno, JAVIIPENO. Tomorrow's show, we're going to be talking about the game recap. Hopefully they could get a win for once. That would be great. And maybe a little bit Jake Cronenworth love. Maybe. Why not? That might be fun. And maybe trading for Luis Robert, if that could help the left field problem. All that and more. Until that next time, though, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies, take care.